Someone doesn't need to be a psychologist to realize that something isn't right if a man is overly focused on his mother and neglects himself. The average person is likely to be able to see that he is living in a way that is not serving him. But although this is something that can be seen as completely obvious to the outside observer, a man in this position can be completely oblivious to what is going on. That's not to say that he will be in a constant state of bliss. What it comes down to is that he is unlikely to be connected to what is taking place inside him. As a result of this, the feelings that would let him know that he is out of alignment with himself won't enter his conscious awareness. Thanks to this, he will be able to behave in a way that is not serving him and not be truly aware of it. In other words, he will be a stranger to himself and will ultimately be his mother's slave. Still, as he lives in a way that goes against his own nature, he is likely to often feel frustrated and even be depressed. But as he is not aware of the information that is inside him that would shed light on what is going on, and perhaps dismisses the feedback that he receives from others that would also help, he won't be able to join the dots, so to speak. Instead, he can believe that it is just due to stress at work or a mental issue that he was born with, for instance. What this approach will do is allow him to behave in the same way for however long. If he was to have a breakdown, thereby preventing him from behaving in the same way, he could start to wonder what is going on. What might soon enter his mind is that he is more like his mother's father than her son. Yet, even though he will want to draw the line and live his own life, he could experience a lot of resistance. Merely thinking about standing his ground and saying no to her could fill him with anxiety and fear. This is likely to show that he believes that he can only survive by being there for his mother. Putting his needs first and living his own life is then going to be seen as a threat to his very survival. At this point, he might struggle to understand why he, a grown man, feels that he needs his mother to be able to exist. What this is likely to show is that he missed out on the emotional nutrients that he needed during his formative years. During this stage of his life, he might have often been left, and when he was given care, it might have largely been misattuned care. Thus, his mother generally wouldn't have been able to tune into his needs and provide him with what he needed. He would have had to generally adapt to her needs. As the years went by, he might have had to continue to be there for her and meet some of her adult and unmet developmental needs. If he didn't do what she wanted, he might have been punished, disapproved of, and rejected and/or abandoned. If he hadn't lost touch with his needs and feelings, his true self, before this stage of his life, he certainly would have at this stage. The first stage will relate to when he was an infant, and the second stage will relate to when he was a toddler and a child. Therefore, he will have behaved like an extension of his mother and been estranged from himself due to not receiving what he needed to stay connected to himself and grow and develop in the right way. There is then nothing random about how he behaves, and neither is there anything inherently wrong with him. What could soon cross his mind is why his mother used him in this way and didn't provide him with what he needed. Most likely, his mother was and still is as underdeveloped as he is now or close to it. Her developmental years are likely to have been a time when she was deprived of what she needed to grow and develop in the right way and lost touch with her true self, with her being used by one of her parents to fulfill their adult and unmet developmental needs. The years would then have passed, but the child that she once was would have continued to look for someone to take care of her. At an unconscious level, then, she probably saw her son as a mother and father. Quite simply, she was too underdeveloped to truly give, but she probably wouldn't have been aware of this, or able to see that she was using her son. Her son would then have been forced to adapt to her and create a disconnected false self that would revolve around him being there for her. Under this false self would have been a deeply wounded and underdeveloped boy. And now that he is a man, he will continue to carry these wounded parts that will keep him in a developmentally stunted state. With this in mind, it is not that his mother chose not to love him. It is that she couldn't love him. If she had received what she needed, or had been able to work through some of her wounds before and after her son was born, it might have been different. This is an example of how emotional deprivation is passed on from one generation to another, and how, when one parent is developmentally stunted, it can be normal for a child to be placed into the role of a parent, and for a parent to go into the role of a child. The person who needs to receive is then forced to give, and the person who needs to give is the one who forces the other to give. So with that said, if you are a man and in this position where you are finding it hard to live your own life and you feel as though you can't survive, if you are not focused on your mother and doing what you can to please her, then most likely it will be due to the fact that you were deprived of what you needed, not because your mother chose not to love you, or she chose not to give you the emotional nutrients that you needed, but because she was underdeveloped and couldn't give you the love or the nutrients that you needed to grow and develop in the right way. So now that you are an adult, there's not going to be anything inherently wrong with you, and how you are won't be a sign that you are weak or flawed or bad or incapable or lack courage or willpower. It will be a sign that through being deprived of what you needed, you were deeply traumatized and unable to go through each developmental stage. So in order for you to gradually grow up emotionally and to step into your power and to know that you can live your life and you don't need to be solely focused on your mother in order to survive, then you're likely to have a lot of pain to work through and unmet developmental needs to embrace and express. And in the beginning, you may need a lot of external support so that you can go where you wouldn't go by yourself. And as you develop your own inner strength, your ability to contain how you feel, then you will need less support. So the main thing is that you reach out, if you haven't already, for the assistance that you need to gradually change your life. Because you are not here just to make up the numbers. You are here to live a fulfilling life. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.